yeah, so I moved away from this beautiful life I created and moved to Reading, and we went into lockdown pretty much as soon as we moved there, and we couldn't see family and friends as easily, but we built a van, and then as soon as that was built, we moved into the van, and yeah, constantly changing things. Sometimes I question, was it the right thing to do? But actually...
Welcome to the Less Trodden Path podcast, a dedication to untangling the world in a raw and honest way, following your gut and your dreams, no matter what they may be. Often they are different to what is known as the norm, a step out of the comfort zone, the path less tread. We are here to help inspire you to take your own path by sharing both our own journey and the stories of others too, making it clear along the way that anyone can do it, whatever it may be, with all the ups and downs, the good, the bad, the pretty, the ugly included. Dreams take time, but if you put your all into it, time doesn't mean anything. This week, we spoke with Katy, who reached out to us to share her journey in hope to inspire and help others. Katy opens up about her path so far, from her humble countryside upbringing to going through a relationship that she thought was normal, before finding out she was in fact experiencing abuse. Since finding the courage to take control of herself and her life, Katy has been on a continuous healing journey of reshaping her life, now finding herself living with what she could only dream of all those years ago. Speaking with Katy was an eye-opening pleasure, shining light on a world we can so easily be unaware of. Katy has shared links in the description box for anyone who may be interested in finding out more or anyone seeking for help from abuse. This is Katy's very own Less Trodden Path.
Inside the machine, it's just not for me. No spending my savings, cause I don't have any. There's too many places to go. I'll be spending all my time living out my bucket list.
See what happens.
Dive on in.
But that's cool though. So when are you in Devon till?
So we are, I think we're probably going into Cornwall. Maybe after, what day is it? Tuesday, because we're seeing some friends today and tomorrow. One of my friends is coming back from Poland, so she's been stuck there since the first lockdown. It'd be really nice to see her.
Yeah.
And then, so we're popping into Cornwall, and then I think we're staying here because we've got cat sitting duties and then a party at the end of the month. So,
yeah,
so we're hanging around for that, and then we're going to go off to Wales, I think. So that'll be nice. Bristol and then Wales.
Nice, that's awesome. Where are like all the festivals and stuff over the summer that you're doing? Are they just spread over?
So half of them are being cancelled. We were going to be in Isle of Wight now, basically, but that's been postponed. So, and we were going to be in Scotland as well. They were going to pay our petrol or diesel to go up to Scotland, but that's being cancelled.
Oh no.
So now we're in Macclesfield, which is like the most north I've ever been. So that would be nice. And then Macclesfield, then where is it? I think then we're down to Newquay for Boardmasters.
Oh, cool.
And then I think we're up to Henley on Thames, is it? I always get it wrong. So that's near where Tom's parents live. And then we're down for somewhere for the big festival. I'm not sure where that is. And then we might do WOMAD as well, because we met George and E from George and his van, and George said, we could get you a job at WOMAD. So that would be like just trying to earn money before we can go away, basically. But we've packed ourselves in now, so we've got no time to like go and explore the areas where we'll be. But it's just work, isn't it? So,
that's cool though, especially like whilst you're planning for like something bigger as well. I guess it's a nice way to get some money in.
And
to
it's
then...
a good experience too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't told Ben, but they're cleaning really posh toilets at the festivals.
Right. Better to be cleaning really posh toilets. I guess the experience is outside doing the cleaning.
Yeah, exactly. But you meet people and stuff. We've both done like all sorts of random jobs and things, and I've done a lot worse than clean toilets.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's a cool thing to think of, like living in a van to earn money when you haven't already got a job. I think you have to be really creative and just open to anything, and that's where the best stories come from.
Yeah, because we both, so Tom wasn't, we're both employed to the agency for extra work. So Tom sort of has like sporadic work he has for years, and then he's done other jobs. But when we built the van, he moved to Bristol temporarily with me. So he had a job in Bristol, and then he left that because we had to move to Reading to build the van. So he just worked on a van, and I worked in A&E, and also worked in the van. And then we just gave that up in like January. We hoped to leave in January, but obviously the lockdown. And then we've been here longer than we thought. So I signed up to the extra work, and then we just got the festival work because we thought, you get free festivals and things and stuff. And just hoping we can go around September, but who knows?
Where are you planning on going? Do you have any plans in particular, or are you just...
So I think first we'll go into France because we've both got friends and family that are there. And then our aim is, if possible, so Tom's aim is to try and get to Singapore.
Nice.
So try and go that far.
That's awesome.
But we want like Pakistan, Iran, all of those sorts of countries. We'll go through Europe first. We've got no like time schedule or anything. Like, this is our permanent sort of life for now. But so we'll see how far it takes us. If we can't get away in September, like in the van, then we might sell it or temporarily leave it here and see if we can go to like Asia, or I don't know. We don't want to do another winter in the van really.
Definitely heard a few people say that. So that's fair enough though, that is. But fingers crossed.
I'm sure it will work.
See what happens, and until then, obviously I'm sure you'll enjoy what you have here for definite. So that's really cool though. But well, thank you for reaching out to us to be on this podcast. Like, you're the first person who's actually come to us rather than us asking people.
Yeah.
So when you sent the message, when you sent the message, I was like, oh my gosh, like someone has reached out to us to be on the podcast. Like, this is because it's funny because we go through phases of like, we have people lined up and then we go quiet because we haven't, like, that lineup's done and they're just being posted, and then we kind of, we reach out a bit further and all that. And then this time around, like, we had a few people lined up but not as many as we kind of wanted to, and then it just happened that you just kind of popped in, and it was like, of course, like, we're just letting it happen and it's coming to us. And so it was really cool. And then when you said that Tom was up for sharing his story as well, honestly, it's amazing. So thank you so much. But really keen to get into you sharing everything, because what you've already kind of said so far just sounds like an incredible, crazy story. We had our own mini private podcast from you the other day.
It's like, this could be the podcast.
When you sent the voice note explaining a little bit about it, we were on the way to Brighton and I was just playing it out loud, and obviously it went on for like almost 15 minutes or something. I don't know.
It.
Ben was like,
"Choose this."
She may as well have just recorded it now. He was like, awesome. It's awesome.
It's really cool.
So
we're keen to share and keen to hear it again.
Yeah. But so you're from Devon, right? Am I right? Or am I making that?
I grew up where I am right now, actually. So awesome. This hasn't always been my room. It was good room in the house, great. And it's not now either. Like, it's used as everyone's room. But I get to stay in here sometimes. That's nice. But I grew up here from, when did I move out? I think just after my 18th birthday, something like that. So I moved into Exeter, which is like the local next biggest city, really, like a main one. I mean, Plymouth's biggest, but Exeter's sort of the hub in Devon. But we're right in the middle of nowhere here. So there's like two streets of our village, basically, and then it's like a 10-minute drive to the nearest shop. And so
that's kind of cool in a way. But I also but I think it's like a mixture. Like, we're in a bit of a similar situation, in the sense of we can walk to like the villages beside, but none of them have anything really. So like, to go to the main supermarket, for example, we have to drive. So it's nice in a way, right? Like, you've got the countryside and it's quiet, but then it gets to a point where it's like, I need a bit more on my doorstep. especially having
Yeah.
grown up in an area that's just nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then so you moved out at 18, and where did you go? Like, did you do uni? Did you?
No, so I never went to uni. I didn't have a great experience of school, so I'm heavily dyspraxic. Don't know if you know like much about that, but it's the same, like in the same category as dyslexia and dyspraxia and ADHD. But it was undiagnosed until I was 19, and I kind of took myself off to get checked for dyslexia, and like dyslexia, I'm right on the cut-off line of like, you know, nearly there, and dyspraxia, because like as soon as you picked up your pen, I knew you were dyspraxic. So that was kind of good to get diagnosed with that. But at school, it was very frustrating, and just we were at like a very cliquey school in the middle of nowhere where all of year 7s know year 11's business and vice versa and stuff. So I just didn't get on with education, and I went straight into work as a support worker at a residential farm for adults with learning disabilities. So I did that for a year, and then went to college after that, and then also was working on the side. So I worked one-to-one with a lady with dementia when doing that, and then I got another job doing the same sort of thing with adults with learning disabilities, so supporting them in their own home. So I worked in care and support since the age of 16. So I gave it up, not gave it up, but I put it on pause in January. So I think it's 11 years now, 10, 11 years. So
Yeah,
there's been all sorts of like things in that. Never went to uni, still don't know what I want to do, as most people. So so I'm a bit undecided. I've definitely, since living in the van and had a pause from like working in care, realised how much I do love it. After wanting a break for so long, I'm now like, a bit lost, like, you know, and feeling a bit like less purposeful, like less of it, like I've got less of a purpose. So I do love that. It's just when you're going in at a level without the qualifications, but you get to the stage where you have a lot of experience, you're being very, very overworked but underpaid, as a lot of people are. And so it's just, it's finding like the balance and stuff. And I think I needed a break to sort of find more of me again. But I definitely do love that, and I think I'll take it further at some point. But who knows when and who knows what.
Yeah, I definitely hear you with the qualification and experience, because there's still, I find anyway, too many people and jobs that look at qualifications over experience, when actually qualifications quite often don't mean anything, in the sense of, depending on what you go for, right? Like if you want to be a doctor or you want to be a lawyer, or things that are a bit more extreme, like of course you need to know what you're doing,
specific.
You need qualifications, but there are some jobs where qualifications mean nothing, but people are still a bit too kind of focused on that qualification, when they could be missing out on like one of the best person for the job. And so I hear you with that. It's tiring.
I found like a lot of the time I've sort of worked above people who've got like a general health and social care degree and stuff, and I've maybe been their supervisor and things. It's not needed, but then, and the experience has helped. The experience has got me the jobs I've got in all these crazy different sectors and places. But when it comes to being paid, they're like, you haven't got the qualification. So we'll give you the responsibility, but we won't give you the pay. You know, so it's kind of great.
Imbalance.
It's crazy. It is crazy. It really is. But hopefully, you know, if you do end up going back into it, hopefully, like, you manage to kind of find the good balance between both, and someone who actually sees you for what you are, rather than what you've perhaps learned or not learned, but still learn just without an exam, you know?
100%. Yeah. So I did, that's what I've sort of done work-wise. And then in terms of where I left, where I went first, I moved in with a friend to a friend's house, which is like this tiny, tiny room, just fitted a bed in. And I lived there for about a few months. That was in Exeter, so she inherited the house. Lived there, and then I moved into a flat in my first property with my ex-partner. So that was a tiny little flat again in Exeter. Looking at it now, I was thinking of it, it was just like I think that was the original tiny living, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's sort of where I went after I left home. I guess I moved around Exeter, I think 4 or 5 different homes in 5.5 years I lived in Exeter. So we sort of like moved around there, mainly in our own places. And then at one point we moved into a shared house. So we gave up like a lovely house and moved into a shared house, a tiny room in a shared house with no like communal space or anything apart from a kitchen. And they were all strangers and all guys. And we moved in there to try and save money to go travelling. But unfortunately that didn't happen. So that was sort of, that's what I did in Exeter, as well as like working and things. But yeah, what do you want to know really, I guess?
I mean, I was about to say, like, did you want to start to kind of dive into that whole story? Like you kind of briefly spoke about the other day, when you kind of, you know, spoke to us, and then just kind of take it from there. Like just, let's just dive from basically what you explained to us, but as deep or not as deep as you want it to be, because I think that your story is worth listening, like from everyone, you know, should kind of, it's a story that a lot of people are still quite closed off to, not necessarily by choice, but also because they just aren't aware that it's actually things that still happen. And I guarantee that there's probably a few people that may listen or may hear of it and will come out of their situation because they've come across you. So take centre stage and
No pressure.
just start, you know, like about your childhood and
but yeah, so I guess so age 18, like as you do, I met a guy in a club through friends. So he was my best friend, and yeah, so he was we shared a mutual best friend basically, and that's how we met. And you know, it was all like brilliant at first. You're young and you're experiencing life again, and you're going out and you're partying and all of this, and we very quickly fell for each other, and it was very intense very quickly. And I guess I'm just kind of the person that doesn't get fazed by that much. So he was from a very large family. I'm not going to say the amount of siblings and stuff because it's very identifiable if you're in this area, possibly. So for safety and privacy reasons. But, you know, that sort of didn't faze me, I guess, because my dad's one of 8 children himself. So that didn't, and this was even larger than that. So that didn't faze me, and lots of things just excited me rather than made me think, that's maybe a bit of a red flag. That's a bit worrying. But I've always been a bit of I'll go for something with risk. And I guess, my dad's he was a bit of a wild child. And I guess I've got that a little bit, but also got a bit of the reserve. I'll be a bit sensible. But I think from being quite unhappy as a teenager and stuff, this was just like, you know, we're going out and met him, and it was just all great. So we moved in with each other less than a year of knowing each other. So we moved in, and it was all very quick. We were like the first people we knew doing this, like, so everybody was like the same age as me, but they hadn't moved in with their partner, they hadn't left home, they hadn't done this. So we became like the party house and stuff, and it was really cool. And I was holding down this job and you looked like responsible and all of this and kind of ahead of everybody, and not really thinking about that much, but also thinking like, oh, I like this, you know. And then we shared the same dreams to like go travelling and go do this. We shared the same love of music and things and stuff. But there was a lot of warning signs. There was a lot of abuse in his family, which I think is the cause of some of his behaviour. And I think he wasn't probably aware of half of his behaviour because he learnt it from them. But then also I think there's some things where you're definitely aware that's just not how you treat somebody you supposedly love. It's not nice. So I was heavily in love, and I think also he played on my natural caring side because I care for people. That's just a big part of me, and that's why I'm in the work I'm in and stuff. And so I am a carer. And yeah, he had not the best mental health himself. So there was a serious gambling issue, which came into light about a year after we were first together.
Okay.
But we had responsibilities, we were paying rent, we had all of this stuff, we didn't have other options. I couldn't go home, he couldn't go home, so we just had to survive. So it's very much like most of our relationship was survival mode, and was me sorting out a lot of stuff, clearing up the debris and things and stuff. And I think back and I'm like, how the hell did I manage it? Because like the jobs I was into as well, at one point I was a support worker in a mother and baby hospital, and I was going, to child protection meetings and having a say whether that child should stay with their parents, and going and, and then going and working with the parent after we've not necessarily said the best things that they want to hear.
Yeah.
And I was on call and stuff all the time at night and dealing with really, quite dangerous situations and stuff. And then my home life was in no way a safe haven itself. It was not good. And there I was supporting, women who were in really bad domestic abuse relationship, completely, I guess, I don't know what the best word is to describe it, but just, I don't think I ignored it. I don't think I was aware of it really, because I was so in love and I was so in survival mode. I was literally just every day surviving, that I just didn't have the time and the energy to take a look at my own situation and relate it to other people close around me and be like, okay, that's what I've got going on myself.
Well, maybe as well,
so, yeah.
like, because of who you were looking after, you maybe saw those as like worse off. Do you think that's also, to you were like, well, I'm not losing my child, or I'm not, having to, I don't know, did that ever kind of come to mind, or when you look back on it, do you maybe think that?
Yeah, 100%. So my father was incredibly abusive. So they were taken in and out of his care constantly. And his mum, my nana, who I never met, it just was horrific. Like the stuff he's said bits and bobs along the way and stuff, and things you learn, and it's just awful. And he's 60 something now, so things have changed and stuff. But you kind of see, I thought that my dad's father was a alcoholic for a long time, and I found out that he wasn't. It wasn't he was just, but he's very physically abusive to his children and to his partner, my nana. So you kind of see that, and I kind of see that happened to other family members, and I kind of see the women I supported, and I'm like, oh no. I'm looking back at it now, when I had after I did leave, and like 6 months to 9 months after leaving, I went to the doctors because I couldn't maintain a healthy weight. My hair was falling out and stuff, and they were like, "You had a stressful situation." I was like, "Well, I have literally uplifted my life and moved on and all of this." And so they hooked me up with a charity, a domestic abuse charity, and I went to a course called the Freedom Course or something like that, which is 12 weeks of 12 sessions, and it covers 11 different types of abuse, so 11 different categories of abuse, and goes into detail. And looking at it now, I'm like, actually, there was everything there. Like, you just didn't, even the physical and stuff and the sexual, everything was there. But your brain blocks it out, and your brain doesn't associate it and stuff. And even now, I don't talk about it that much because I don't feel the need to. And I can list it like, I was in an abusive relationship, this is what it was like, blah, blah, blah. Like, not this is what it's like, I just say the facts, actually. But, I can say there was sexual assault, there was all of this, but I don't go into detail because I think even now, I don't need to. I don't need to explain. But I then think, like you said, people find it very hard to understand, and they say, well, how was your life abusive? Like, how was it abusive? And trying to explain to somebody is like, you can see their brains ticking and thinking, oh, well, that doesn't all, actually, I've experienced that a bit, or my partner does that, but it's putting it all together and like seeing it. There's been some very, very good TV programs that like describe and play the emotional and the controlling side very, very well. But I do think it must be incredibly hard to imagine somebody's life like that, because it's so far off. Like, even now, I'm like, oh yeah, how was it like how was it like that? How did
Yeah.
I, do you know what I mean?
How did you
And I
last
had
5 years?
I had a new life now. So
Yeah.
it was pretty much like leaving and starting again in Bristol. I was like a child because everything feels brand new. Like I have this, I can do this stuff, I can spend money on my own things, and I can make decisions for myself. And yeah, it is very, I think, like the freedom course and stuff, and explaining it in the way it did, and you were there sat with other, it was just women. It's the majority of the time it is women that are the victims, but I'm not saying it, like, it does happen to men as well. But in that situation I was in, it was only women that were allowed to be there, and it was only women that charity supported. There was a safe place for them to, so each time we had a different, I can't remember from the top of my head, they like named it as a person. So it'd be like the king of the castle or something, and the sexual predator, all this different stuff. And then you'd go through like that, and then they would encourage people to share their experiences of that type, basically so that you can identify what in your relationship was bad, was like fitted into that category, and then to try and like to make you realise what it was, to try and prevent it from happening to you again in many ways, and to get your awareness and understanding of that's not okay, and this is what should be, this is what is okay, and this is what you can expect and you should expect, and if you have this, it's not, because unfortunately so often people do go back into that situation because they don't learn what's okay and what's not okay. Still, you're kind of told physical abuse is not okay, so you know it's wrong if somebody hits you, but you don't know it's wrong if somebody's like, just the smaller things, like there's so much detail, but just saying, oh, I don't like what you're wearing, really don't like what you're wearing, take it off, you're not going out like that, and just all sorts of really stuff that you piece together really makes this huge sort of thing where you have no control over your life. And,
so you said that you kind of realised, without obviously going into like too many questions and too much details, you said you realised something 1 year in, right?
So that was when he started gambling, was 1 year in, and it was actually, I think about a year in, I'm trying to think, probably like 18 months in was the first time I left temporarily. So I left in the middle of the night. I just ran out because I didn't feel safe to stay in there at that time. And I waited at the local train station for an hour at 12 midnight for my mum to pick me up. And that night was horrendous. When he realised I was, he basically threatened to kill me, basically, and not, like you said, when I get my hands on you, I'm going to go to prison for what I'm going to go do to you. And then within less than 24 hours, I was back with him because he was very persuasive and very, I'm going to, it was all my work, I'm going to change that. So he left his work and all of this. And then we ended up moving into a new house because we left that flat because we got kicked out, and then Prissy said we got kicked out because of him, but all this different stuff. And so I left. I think I left about, I think that was pretty much the only time I sort of left, and then I just carried on really because I didn't get the chance of the chaos of trying to just survive and keep going with things. I just carried on there because I didn't see a way out really. I didn't have somewhere I could go. Like a lot of people get stuck in relationships because of financial reasons, and obviously we were so financially tied. And the good parts were good. Like that's what's really crap. Like they know how to make you feel amazing when they know that they need to keep you in for a bit, when they can feel control losing and that you might have the strength, they bring you back in and then they let you go again and all of that sort of stuff. So I think 2018 was when I really hit my low point, and that was when I was just really struggling, and just a shadow of myself. And I changed everything. I realised I needed to change stuff, but I didn't want it to be him. So I changed absolutely everything to find out what the root cause of this unhappiness was. I changed our accommodation, I changed my job again, like just changed everything. And then I went to a friend's like birthday night thing one time, and we were talking to a load of people, and I sat there and I realised I hadn't done like anything. He promised to be travelling by the age of 25. I'd just turned 25 and we've got no closer, you know. And I just realised I was like, I've not been me. I've not done me from 16 to now. I've not done anything that I said I wanted to do and people expect me to do. So I planned to leave him, and I planned to leave because we'd just signed a new property. So we'd just signed a month contract that you can't get out of a new property because I changed our accommodation to see if that would make it. So I was like, I told my parents, like, I'm going to leave, but I'm going to do it all secretly because I knew that I couldn't leave. It wouldn't be easy to leave and all of this. Like, I'm going to get everything sorted to move, and then when we can leave the property, I'm just going to go. I'm going to have it all sorted to go, which isn't how it works. It's not, and leaving is like the most dangerous part. So I was with a therapist at that time. I was with a counsellor. He was amazing, and I did tell her this. Like, she never ever once said, she knew straight away what was the cause of my problem. She knew I was in this type of relationship, but she never ever said that until I completely came away from it. And then she said, you know, what you were in was abusive. But yeah, when I told her I was going to leave, she was like, that's really difficult. It's not a safe time. It's not, and it's really difficult for you to realise that you don't want to be with somebody anymore and still be with them because of whatever the financial ties, the moving ties and stuff. So I planned it all like that, and I survived about 2 weeks after realising. We went to London and Bristol for my birthday, and that was just absolutely horrendous. Like, and then one night, I was just like, I was just like, I'm going now, and I can't. But all his family were there when I was trying to actually leave, like because it wasn't just him that was involved in a lot of the abuse. It was the family did get involved as well, and it took about 2-3 days for him finally to accept that was me going, and then it took months and months after that with everything, like everyone having to be blocked and removed from my life. So like people that I've known for 6 years, just boom, I just had to disappear because he used every way to get hold of me. But he had younger brothers and sisters who I'd known for half their lives, basically, and had, you know, I'm a caring person. I had a lot to do with them, and that was it. One day I was just gone. So that was incredibly hard and hard now still to deal with that. And I think of like people who have stepchildren and stuff, and they might have had them their whole lives, and then all of a sudden now they can't, and their own children. I just think it's made me really empathise towards them, like how, because so I just literally had to block everyone that was any link to that life. I had to carry on paying the rent there for 4 months. So luckily, my parents let me stay with them, and I was working this job where I was doing like 14-hour shifts, a one-to-one, and it was just mental these like 4 months. And I set up, whilst doing that, I found a place in Bristol. I knew one person there, my best friend, and I paid 2 months rent. Like I paid a month's rent at 2 different places and was gone. Gone straight away. As soon as I was the ties in Exeter were done, I moved to Bristol. And restarted life there. Basically, I couldn't give myself the life I've given myself in Exeter and in Devon because it's so small, and that 6 years of my life, I met and knew so many people through so many different ways that associated me. There was people that knew of me that I didn't even, like, I was recognised on the street because it was such a big family and a big friends group that had, you know, not the best. There was a lot of dealing and stuff going on and stuff, and I was, for years, the only girl in this group of guys that was very recognisable. And I remember walking home in 2018 one day, and this person who didn't make me feel very safe was just like, oh, I know you. And then I went back to my ex at the time and said, this just happened to me. I just finished work and this just happened to me. It made me feel like, oh yeah, I think I know who it is. He's probably recognised you through like Instagram and stuff. So I just wasn't able to move on in Devon and in Exeter. Like for me to take any new steps wouldn't have been easy. And wouldn't have been particularly safe either. So I moved to Bristol and restarted life, which was definitely the best decision I've ever made. And I 100% recommend it for anybody that's just unsure and unhappy and feeling stuck in whatever way that is. That you can change things. You can. It's all, and you do have the strength. Like even when you're feeling so tired and so exhausted and so lost from yourself, you do have that strength in yourself. And I think that's what so many people have said. They said, well, why did you leave it so long to leave? Like, why did you let it go on for so long? And a lot of the time, a lot of it was I didn't know. I didn't see what was going on in front of me. I didn't see what I was going through. But the last year of that relationship, I think I did realise, and it was finding the strength. It was finding the time when I had the energy in me to make this massive move, which I did have, and everybody has, but it is just finding that time, and that time will come, and you can do it and stuff. So, yeah, I think that's really important to share, is that there is always, even though when you're feeling like you're like absolute weakest, like just a tiny bit yourself, you will find that strength. So,
Yeah.
you can change things.
There's always a way out, for sure. And it's always, I think we can't, like, we've never been through what you've been through. So, and what you've been through is extreme to a lot of things, but the first step is always the biggest step. But once you've taken that first step, there'll still be some big steps, but the first step is definitely,
that's where you've got to find your strength.
And until you've found that first step, it's definitely going to be tough. So we completely get you in that sense. But that is crazy.
It's incredibly powerful, man.
Like, you just saying that is just making me just like bringing chills to my body, and just like the fact that you can talk about it like this now, and even, like I said at the start, potentially help others. Even if, in their own situation, it's just, I think it's incredible. And I think it's so cool that you're open to talking about it and sharing it. And it's, like, wow. But when you said, because you said that you'd started to like lose your hair and gain weight and all that kind of stuff, did that happen in the relationship, or did it start to happen kind of towards, or?
So, in last year, I was very, 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 very low. Like, I thought I had experienced like depression beforehand, and I thought that when I was supporting clients that were experiencing depression, I was as understanding as possible, and I thought that I could relate to it. And then till, in 2018, I was like, I've felt low, but I've not felt like this before. Like, it was just, and the people around me that knew me, like, all for a very long time and very well, just said you were just a shadow. Like, I used to always put makeup on. I used to always wash my hair every day, which is really bad. And that's not something you can do living in bad. But I used to really take pride in my appearance and stuff. And I was just turning up to things, like barely turning up, and turning up with like no makeup on my face, not washed hair and stuff. And so lots of people who know me really well, that at that time was a big warning sign, because that was not me. And I couldn't. It's really hard to explain depression. There's definitely low moods and extremely low moods, and then there's depression where it's just the weirdest feeling, and really, really hard to understand. So I definitely experienced that in 2018 in the relationship, and then when I came away, I think my weight was quite healthy then, and I think I was a little bit slimmer than I had been, but it was, during a relationship it fluctuated. At one point I was for me, quite overweight, because I was sort of comfort eating and stuff to get me through what was going on and things like that. But it was when about 6 to 9 months down after leaving that my physical health really started to deteriorate. So I'd always been used to not sleeping very well, so that wasn't much of a sort of a new thing. It wasn't much of an issue, really. I mean, it is, but I'd sort of been used to that and stuff. But 6 to 9 months down the line, so when I was happy in Bristol and living like my best life, was when I just was tiny, like absolutely tiny, not maintaining weight. My hair was just like coming out in bits, and I just realised, I think I need to go to the doctors. Like, nothing. I can't really remember what else I've suffered from IBS for 10 or so years now. I've been diagnosed with it. So I was kind of used to, like ill health and things changing all the time, and 1 minute being quite good and 1 minute being like that. I just, for some reason, went to the doctor, and that's when they said, have you had anything stressful? And I wasn't with the therapist anymore because that was in Exeter, so I left her before I was ready to leave her, but we couldn't continue it. It was just, you need to go to Bristol, get out of Devon, carry on your life. So I did that, got a job, got some friends, was having a great time, but still something wasn't quite right, and my physical health started to show that. That's when I went to the doctors, and that's when they realised, you've left the relationship, but it doesn't sound like a good relationship at all. They linked me up with Next Link, which is a brilliant charity in Bristol. They really helped me. I had a support worker work with me, which was really odd at first because that was my job. So I was not having somebody support me, and that had always been my role. So at first, I think I was trying to think of her name the other day, and I think now it's Jess. I'm terrible at names. But at first, me and Jess were just sat there like, okay, I could feel her awkwardness because I was like, I don't need this. I don't need you. Like, I don't know why I'm here. Like, I'm usually you. So, and then actually, as things unravelled from August 2019 to like January, February 2020, Jess was a lifesaver, really. She did so much for me. I did need her. I needed to step into the role. Like, I needed to have somebody support and look after me, and I had that with friends and my parents who had all been amazing, but I needed somebody with the professional knowledge, and I needed somebody separate from, who wasn't linked with me emotionally and stuff. And she got me with the Freedom Project, which was incredibly good. It was so empowering to be with women who'd experienced the same sort of thing. It was a really odd situation. It made me see it first. It definitely made me realise like how much worse my situation was than I was allowing myself to see, but in a safe and secure way. But I think doing that and going back over everything, which I hadn't done, I'd sort of pushed it aside and like, okay, it's done, we're in Bristol now, do this. But going over things in such detail, things that I completely forgot about, that did bring on PTSD. Which is quite common for people that leave any sort of abusive relationship, whether that be childhood abuse or sorts of things. So in November 2019, I was diagnosed with PTSD, complex PTSD, and I had some time off work for 2 to 4 weeks, which is incredibly hard to accept, but I needed that time to get better. And then I was doing like a phased return and stuff, and I was searching for ages for the therapy that was specific PTSD.
What did you do? Sorry, just to cut you off. What did you do in those 2 to 4 weeks? Like, what did you do to keep yourself busy? To, you're off work, but you obviously still need to kind of, I'm assuming, keep your mind busy, right? Because What did you do? How did you get through those weeks?
So it wasn't good to be at work. So how it kind of came on was I was having panic attacks at work, and I was having to leave. I was working in a specialist school at the time, and I, was one-to-one with children, and at one point I just had to run out of the room because I felt very trapped. So a massive thing for me is feeling trapped, whether that be inside a room or outside. I can feel trapped wherever I am and different because I have been trapped for a long time and different physically and emotionally and mentally. Part of it was I was sometimes like physically trapped as well. So that's my kind of thing, and I need to get out of wherever that is, whether it's come inside or get outside and stuff. So I was having panic attacks that were at work, and that was like, you're not well enough to be there at the moment. You need to look after yourself rather than look after other people. So I actually went back to Devon, the place where a lot of my bad memories are. So I went back and I let myself be looked after really by my parents, which was lovely, and which was something like I haven't done for a very long time, because I just left home and I saw them sporadically when I was kind of allowed to, and then in Bristol we couldn't see each other as much, and so it was nice to rebuild that relationship. And me and my dad, he was retired then, so we just went out and did a lot of stuff in nature actually. I'm quite good now identifying what I need when I identify what wrong. Once I've identified that, I then identify what I need. And a lot of the time I need to be in nature and at these places that I associate as quite calm and like settling and stuff. So I came back to Devon, had a lot of cat therapy with their cat, and a lot of nature therapy, and then I went back into Bristol because all of my housemates were changing and I had to be there and sort that out and stuff and things like that, and decided I'm ready to go back to Bristol now, and I want to go back to work. I want to go back to my life. I need that. I don't want to be here being looked after. I want to start looking after myself again. So we did that, but just slower, because it was just, full time and everything. So we just did it slower. My friends were amazing and stuff. And then I also decided to get a cat and rescue a cat, so adopt a cat. So November and December I was searching for her and got her right at the end of December 2019. And she has literally been my lifeline in many ways, especially through COVID. But yeah, so that, nature and cat helped me.
That's awesome.
I mean,
that's a good remedy.
Yeah, it's a nice. I think I love it.
Nature and animals.
Definitely, best way.
Food as well.
All the best things.
Yeah. Best things in life.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's like, I like that you really did kind of just dive into the most natural of things, nature, and you didn't go searching for, you just kind of let it happen, and you like you said, you came back to be looked after, you gave yourself that opportunity rather than just trying to look after yourself and trying to find things to do. You just kind of took life as it kind of was, and
I think it's important.
I needed to rest and just accept what was happening, which is really hard to do because I never did that previously, and I always just carried on, and that was something my friend said to me. She was like, because when I wasn't well with PTSD, I was very like always quite manic, like always doing something, because that was my way of avoiding these things that were coming up. Is literally avoiding them. It's doing as much as you can. There's no concentration. It affects your concentration massively and stuff. And I just never ever stopped until I just completely burnt out. And even after, like at the beginning of 2020, I went away with my friend to Dublin, and then on the plane back we were talking about what we needed to do, and she was like, I've never met anybody that just does as much as you, Katy. It's just like and I never rested in Bristol. I never rested. I never settled at my home until COVID happened, and then I was forced to rest. I was forced to stay in. I was forced to not do as much. I couldn't go out and constantly be doing things and constantly be seeing people. I was, going to yoga classes between 2 to 5 times a week. I was, doing more than 2 things most evenings after work. So I'd go and do yoga, I'd meet a friend for coffee, then I'd go and do yoga, and then I might go for a drink as well after that, and then go to work the next day and carry on. And COVID stopped that, and it forced me to stay at home and spend time within myself. Which was really good. It was hard. My job stopped before, say, my school closed down before others, because the children I was working with were incredibly high risk. Common cold could put them in hospital. So there was 7 months where I wasn't working, which was hard at first, but absolutely amazing, and definitely was the thing I needed to, another part of what was a recovery stage, but just making me spend time chilling, just relaxing, doing stuff. I still struggle with it now, because we're just desperate to go away now, and I'm not working like I used to work. I'm doing more sporadic work and stuff, so I still struggle a bit. I do like to be busy, I do like to be doing stuff a lot, I have to be somebody doing something, but I wasn't resting, and COVID forced me to learn how to rest again and be happy myself, doing not crazy amounts all the time. So that was good.
That's awesome. It kind of came at the right time as well. It kind of it seems like you had the 2 to 4 weeks to just try and rest, and then you rushed almost back into normal life, I guess you could say, and then it was it kind of came back, and it was no, now you're gonna stop for months on end, and it's awesome because it's brought you to where you are now, right? You don't...
Exactly. It gave me the time to think for the first time ever, like, since being 16 and going straight into work, I had the space to actually think about what I wanted, and I thought life in Bristol was what I wanted. I still sometimes question it because I've given all that up again. I've not, like, I was just talking to Tom about it. I've given up so much that I loved to do what I wanted to do, but unfortunately COVID has still took that from us a bit, so I'm struggling a little bit in this limbo period still. But yeah, so it gave me the time to, I didn't have to rush off to work every morning. I didn't have to think of all these different things I had to do. I had nothing to do, so it gave me the time to really think, was I content? Did I need to change things again? And that's when I realised, like, yeah, I did need to change things. And I met Tom during the first lockdown, like in the midst of a pandemic. And we just clicked because we shared so many of the same values, so many of the same things we wanted to do. And then, yeah, we ended up, I met him, he came and moved in with me the first time we met in real life, which is a bit, so we met over Zoom, basically, and then I had a house to myself for 3 weeks, so I lived with one person for 3 weeks, and now my housemate had left, and I was alone for 3 weeks, and then it was kind of like, well, why don't you come now? It's safe, there's nobody else here. But his mum is a midwife and was kind of like, if you go, you can't come back, you can't risk spreading stuff, so kind of like, meet me, but you've got to meet me.
Go for it.
So we just hit it off, and that's worked really well. It's been great. And then I realised, I don't want to go back to work. Like, so my contract wasn't renewed, and I did manage to get a job at another school starting in September. It should have started in September last year. But I was like, actually, this isn't really what I want to do. It's not. I love Bristol, but I think my mental health was starting to slip again because I wasn't content enough. I hadn't done what I'd said when I was 18, 16, 15. I want to go and see the world. So we, gave him everything, gave him my notice in Bristol in this safe haven, this home that I created, the first home that, like, the community I lived in was just amazing. Like, it was just such a lovely place. And I did the scary thing and handed in my notice there. Moved in with Tom's family, which was amazing, but again, very hard because I'd not lived with a family for 5, nearly 6 years. And, you know, it was lovely. It was really, really lovely, but it was so away from everything. It was so away from everything I'd done that I need to make my, like, to look after myself. Like, yoga was a massive part of my life in Bristol. Going to the classes and stuff there, I tried to do it in Reading and it just was not the same. I couldn't find it, and it was the same. You're spoiled for a lot of things in Bristol. You're spoiled with food, you're spoiled with yoga, you're spoiled with everything. And so I moved away from this beautiful life I created and moved to Reading, and we went into lockdown pretty much as soon as we moved there, and I couldn't see family and friends as easily, but we built a van, and then as soon as that was built, we moved into the van, and constantly changing things. Sometimes I question, was it the right thing to do? But actually, I think it is. It definitely is, because I know that if I didn't do it, I'd be there questioning, do I need to do it? So,
exactly.
I think that's what a lot of people feel like all the time, is that questioning. And my sort of advice in that is just do it. And if it doesn't work, you've tried, you've tried, you made that change, and you can go back. You can not go back, but you can make changes to be, you know, if you think, oh, my life then was better, then you can make the changes to make it similar to then again, or you can change it again. You are so in control of things, and sometimes you might feel like you're not, but you can be. You can take control, and and I often feel now like, oh, I'm not, things just happen, and I have to go back and think, actually, no, like, you can make the changes, you can. And it's hard, but beautiful things happen from it.
It's always worth it when you look back on that decision you made, even if it isn't, you know, what you wanted in the end, or it didn't go as planned. It's still worth it, because, like you said, if you hadn't have done it, you'll never know. So there's never, you know, you have to go through these things to move forwards, whether it's good or bad. Like, you have to. What was it like meeting Tom? Obviously, was he the first relationship since that previous one? So what was kind of, how did you go about that? You know, did you have kind of, like, what's the word? Not fears, but you know, was it
apprehension?
Apprehension, I don't know. Or, you know, did you just feel good straight away?
Yeah, so I met my ex when I was quite young, when I was 18, and then obviously 6 years of my life with just him. And then I spent 4 months focusing just on myself and moving my life, basically. And then about another 2 months settling in there, and I was like, actually, I'm going to try these dating apps. I've always sort of been like, oh, I don't need that. I'm gonna try these and have fun. And I had a lot of fun, and I learned a lot about myself using these dating apps. And I met this brilliant guy that I'm not going to mention, and he taught me so much about myself on a physical sort of level and stuff, and really brought my confidence back. And that definitely is what helped me sort of find Tom. So I did have a few different sort of, I guess, relationships, but not a traditional relationship, what we call a traditional relationship, where you say, oh, he's my boyfriend, I'm his girlfriend, sort of thing. I'd made these sort of new connections with people. And then, yeah, during COVID, I got bored. Reinstalled, or not reinstalled, tried Hinge for the first time. Met Tom on it, and then we're both very like, if we want something, we'll do it sort of people. So I was like, do you wanna have a video date? That's how it started. And then he came, wow. And we both realised we were talking on the phone every single day for like a month and a half. So we realised there was more. I'd not felt that before with anybody apart from my ex. And, you know, I think that to want to talk with someone that much is, you know, there's something more to it. But yeah, it was, being in a relationship again is incredibly full on, and it's incredibly hard when your only experience of a relationship is a very, very unhealthy one. And it's not a relationship. It wasn't what I had with my ex. It's not what a relationship should be. There were moments that were lovely. There were moments where I do believe he did care and he did love me, but he didn't know what love was really. Like, we both kind of had this distorted version of what love was, where we had been shown it differently than a lot of people had experienced. So, and Tom's a wonderful person. He's very loved, and he's very loving, and he's very patient, very kind, very calm and caring. And you really, really need those qualities in a partner when you're having a new relationship with somebody, and your old one was your only experience, and your past was so bad. Because it is hard and it is scary. And I was so fiercely independent in Bristol, and I still am so fiercely independent and like strong and determined, that it's very hard to, and so much of what I associated as being the best part of my life was on my own, actually. So, and our relationship has been just through a pandemic. We haven't had a relationship outside of the pandemic. We haven't had a relationship where most of the time of our relationship we've had the government, like, you know, constructing so much of what we can and can't do, more so than normal and things. So it's a weird time when we moved in on the day, moving in together, the day we met and stuff. But it's great. It is hard though, and it's one thing that I found difficult to speak to people, because Tom is brilliant. Can't say anything bad because he's so patient, that I do think for him it must be so hard sometimes, because you're learning and things do haunt you a little bit. Like even like my dreams haunt me, and I woke up and pushed Tom off me the other day, you know, and that's something you have your dreams you don't really have control over. So yeah, it is a difficult thing. I do think support for people in that situation would be useful, because like my support I had with the women at Freedom and stuff, that was all in Bristol, and you know, now we're away from Bristol, you couldn't meet with groups of people at the time and stuff. So I think that's something that is overlooked, and not, especially if your new partner is great, because you're with a great person, you're with somebody who's looking after you, taking care, who's doing, you know, you're having what a relationship should be, that it's still difficult. And I think, it's kind of more awareness around that and the difficulties needed.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to ask and go into. Like, do you still suffer from, you know, any PTSD? And like you said, you know, you pushed him away in a dream and stuff. Do you, like, has that calmed down, or is it still just as bad? Or obviously I'm assuming you're maybe more in control of it now, as you kind of maybe go get away from it.
I'm lucky in In January, I started therapy, so I was having to go back to Exeter. The only place we could get an EMDR therapist was Exeter, which was a pain. I was having to travel from Bristol to Exeter, the place I absolutely hated every week, but I was determined to do it because I was determined to get better. And then COVID obviously shut all that down about 3 weeks after starting, and you can't really do it. I thought you can't really do it by Zoom, so that just finished. And I felt a lot better. And then in August, I was starting to slip again. And then literally just as we were leaving Bristol's NHS thing got a hold of me and were like, you're at the top of the waiting list. You've reached the top of the waiting list finally for EMDR therapy with Bristol for the NHS, so not private. I was like, oh, brilliant, I'm leaving Bristol. And they were like, it's okay, we'll carry it on, because otherwise going to Reading, I would have had to go to the end of a waiting list again, and I would just never have got there. So I did EMDR therapy, which is eye movement reprocessing, desensitivity, I think it is. That's what I think it is. But it's not talking therapy. It's a very unique therapy that is very successful for PTSD. I highly recommended it. I was really lucky and I got it through the NHS via Zoom. Started in September last year, finished January, February sometime this year, I think. Okay. Or possibly December, I'm not sure. But yeah, I am still very early into, it's been not even 2 years since diagnosis. A pandemic has happened, which I don't think we allow ourselves to, I don't think we talk about how much that actually affects people, whether we are aware of it or not. I think subconsciously it affects us all on such a deep level. And I think we do need to talk about it more in many ways, that how our lives are not what we are used to and things and stuff. So I'd say I'm a lot better. I can manage things a lot better. I'm rebuilding relationships that the PTSD did unfortunately affect. The main sort of thing is these flashbacks you get with PTSD. So that's how the diagnosis, your mind literally takes you back so that you're not in a situation you're actually physically presently in. Your mind is taking you back to when you were in the abuse and the trauma and stuff. So you're not there. You are mentally not there, and it is quite, there was a situation I had, and my mum was like, my mum's a Samaritan, and she was like, you were not sane, you weren't there, and because I found out I said something, and I didn't realise I said that to somebody. I had no recollection, and I was absolutely shocked and in tears when they told me I said that, and I said to my mum who was there, and she said, yeah, you did say that, but you didn't say that, as Katy didn't say that. Your mental state at the time, you were mentally really unwell. That's what said that. So I do have many flashbacks. Sometimes I have dreams, and sometimes when I'm just in a nightmare, I'm like, actually, when I look at it afterwards, I think, actually, I'm dealing with that as if I'm not here right now, and back there, I'm thinking of things. So I'm constantly quite on guard, but it is slowly, and quite a lot of it has healed, and it just takes time as well. It's been 6 months or so since I completed the therapy, which should have been done in person, but again, thanks to COVID, it was done by Zoom. I think the therapy opened up a lot of other stuff that I didn't realise. I thought a lot of it would be about the abusive relationship, but actually it went further back from that. So it's still making me, I'm still dealing with that, things that opened up, that it doesn't have half as big a hold on me as it did, but I'm still learning. Everything is still new. It's been nearly 3 years since I left, but it was 6 years of your life, 18 to 25, all of your adult life pretty much. So it does still have a hold. I'm still learning how to be in a relationship, still learning how to, but it's good. I would 100% recommend the therapy for anybody that has feelings like that, stuff. And I'd recommend just talking to people and getting help. People are there to help and support, and just generous and kind and caring. bit scary doing that and speaking out and stuff. But yeah, it's 100% well worth it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, maybe what we can do as well is let us know kind of the ones that you want to recommend, and we'll put them in the description of the podcast so that people can obviously go straight to them. And maybe we'll put, like, if you're up for it, I don't know if you want to put your kind of a way for people to reach out to you as well if they want to. Obviously, if you don't want to, that's absolutely fine. But if you have something that they can reach out to you as well, that would be awesome. We can leave it in the description for anyone who needs it or who just wants to check it out and stuff. But that's awesome to hear that, you know, you are so open to working your way up and out and into the you that you actually are and all that. So moving on to, like, what's now, what's next, what's, you know, you're finally able to hit these travel plans that you've been wanting to do for so long. So is there, like, anything else that you weren't able to do for those 6 years that you're now like, I'm off, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna, you know, what's the plan, what's in mind, what are you excited for?
I guess just, I don't really think too much about that. Like, I mean, I'm so excited to travel, so excited to go and see more of the world, and I'm actually very glad that I'm doing it at late, like I say late age. It's not late and old, like you can travel at any time, you can change things in life at any time, but I planned to do it when I was like 18 and now it's 10 years nearly down, and like 28 now nearly, so but I'm glad I'm doing that because I think I know now more of what I want to see, so I know not exactly, but I have a clearer idea of what I want to get from it and stuff, so I'm really looking forward to that and just seeing what sort of comes my way, just making decisions when I need to. I don't think that far ahead, really. Like, when everyone's, where are you going back? What's your plan? Like, I mean, our kind of idea is to try and get to Singapore in the bus. If it works, it works. If we don't get there in the bus, we might get there via another vehicle. You know, just, I like not having, at the moment, I don't have many responsibilities, which feels odd, but it also feels really good, and I like that, actually. Although adjusting to that, I like it because it throws so many different opportunities my way, so many times that I can say yes rather than, oh no, I can't, because I can't fit that in right now. And already, you know, I think, oh, I haven't done much, but like Tom's like, you have, look what you've done. You made a bus into a home. You've just gone and done your first filming job as an extra, which is something, you know, I just did it for the money, really, because it's very good money, but also it's experience meeting new people, doing a whole new thing, and going to different places. And, you know, we've got this festival work. I'm really looking forward to going to a festival again. I'm not, like, Rewind, not my cup of tea music-wise, but just going into a crowd and feeling the music and the energy. Like, I cannot wait for that. And I cannot wait to just drive out of this country in the bus and just see what things happen, really. That's so cool. I'm just excited to be able to say more stuff, more than I ever have before.
That's really cool.
That's so exciting. I love that you're just throwing yourself out there and you're just, that's awesome. That's really, really cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey so far. Is there anything else that you want to kind of throw in there that you feel like you want to share, or do you feel like you've said enough?
No, I think it's very odd talking about yourself so much. And not asking you, it's very not like asking you questions, but I find that very weird. But I didn't say really, unless if you have anything, but I've rambled, I've gone off, so I'm sorry.
No, honestly, like, it's awesome, and I think you've shared some really incredible stuff, and like I said, I'm sure some people will definitely resonate with it in their own way, but you've probably touched more people than you realised. So it's amazing. But before we go on and speak to Tom, if he's still up for it, we'll maybe finish off. We normally ask kind of couple of questions, but I feel like you've covered. So like we normally talk about the advice that you would give. I mean, if you have any kind of advice now in like a sentence or something that you want to give to someone who's looking at either escaping a path that they're currently on to really do their own path, or just in general. I don't know if you have anything, or you have actually covered. You've said, I heard a few kind of throughout the podcast, you said some really good advice. So if you feel like you've already said it, then that's absolutely fine. But if you've got anything that comes to mind, or
I think I would just say, like, you do have the power within yourself to change things, and I find it healthy and to not look at regrets, not look through life like you have regrets. Like, Tom asked me, he said, do you regret being with your ex? And I said no, like, because I am now where I am, and where I am is really happy. And if I hadn't gone through that, would I be where I am? No. Would I be in this situation right now? No. And somebody once said to me, you've just had condensed life lessons, and that's the best way to look at things. I think you have learned, like, you learn from things, don't look at them like a regret. And if you are starting to feel really unhappy, find that power within yourself, because you are strong enough, whatever the situation is, to change it. And if you change it and it doesn't work out for you again, change it again. Like, change it. You can't go back. You can't make anything exactly the same, but you can always change things. And yeah, just do it. Just 100% do it. If you feel like you need to do something, then do it. That's what I would say. Awesome. Don't think so much about what other people think.
Yeah. Nice. A grand experience you're yet to have. Again, that could coincide with like the travel that you were sharing about and stuff, but is there anything in particular that you're like, I need to do that before I die, like a grand experience?
I guess the one thing I said is always on my bucket list is to see whales in nature, like in natural habitat. I'd love to see that. And I guess from like being more connected to the van life community, I'd like to see mountains, like actual mountains, because I've never, like, you see so many people's amazing travels and stuff on Instagram, and you, like, in real life, you see pictures and you hear from them, and Tom's travelled so much, and I'm like, yeah, I've gone on nice holidays to sun myself in places, and I've gone and seen, like, cities and things, but I still, like, I just cannot wait to go and see some of the just natural, beautiful sights, like, just be there rather than seeing it through a screen, like,
Oh, well, if you need any recommendations for Spain in regards to mountains, then I think we've covered all of the kind of east-south kind of mountains that there are. So some of which we did like 3 times. So yeah, feel free to ask us for any recommendations of the best ones in that area, because we can definitely give you a good list. But that's cool. Mountains is a good one.
Yeah,
like,
really good one.
Mountains are incredible and they are so humbling. I think everyone should climb a mountain at least once in their life, because they just bring you back to earth and to the present and to just this tiny creature around this incredible planet. Nice though. I love that. Last one, let's finish off. What mantra do you go by, if any?
I guess kind of like what I answered in the first question. Yeah, just if you feel like you need to do something, if you feel like you need to change it. And then also the one thing that I've always sort of lived by, and is, I think, quite Christian, but I'm not a Christian. It's just the one thing my dad's always said. He's not a Christian, but he's just said, treat other people as you would like to be treated. And that, I've always tried to do that. And I think when you're losing yourself, you need to go back to that as well. So it's just, show people what you would like to be shown. Something I learned from a yoga teacher, one of my favourite yoga teachers, my favourite classes, we always say, and somebody asked me, he said, what did you say at the end of your practice the other day? And it's, may everything I think be pure, may everything I say be pure, may everything I give in, give out, I give back. So it sort of links in with that, I think, as well. And,
no, that's, it's so true. And awesome. Well, that was incredible. Incredible really podcast. Incredible to speak with you, to hear everything, and just it's really...
You have been listening to the Less Trodden Path podcast with Laura and Benedict. make sure you subscribe to us on whichever platform it is you're using. If you would like to feature on the Less Trodden Path podcast, then head over to our website, thelesstroddenpath.com. Thank you for listening. The Less Trodden Path podcast is sponsored by imakesounds.com, music for content creators. If you're looking for royalty-free music to feature on your own podcast, blogs, YouTube videos and more, then head over to imakesounds.com.